ADD gamers rejoice because the new SteelSeries Arctis Nova Omni headset is here and it has a launch price of $400 US. It comes in midnight blue, white, and graphite, which is the color I'll be showing for this review. Now, thankfully, aside from color, there's no other choice that you have to worry about making if you're considering the Omni. The Omni means Omni platform because that is the big selling point with this particular model. Basically, one SKU, regardless of color, will work on all platforms. There's 3 USB-C ports on the back. It works on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, mobile, and even has aux inputs on the back for you to connect an analog device. It also has a 3.5mm output on the back to connect to speakers or something else if you're using it for streaming. To make this even better and tie into my ADD opening statement is it has dual USB inputs active simultaneously, which means you can listen to your PlayStation and your PC at the same time. It will route your microphone to both the PlayStation and PC at the same time, and it will still simultaneously play audio from your cell phone or mobile device using Bluetooth, which is insane. You don't have to use all that, but it is nice that it's there. And this has been a big asking point for gamers. If you want to have multiple connections going at once, it's just convenient to give it to you at the USB level. This feature isn't totally brand new. It was introduced on the more expensive Arctis Nova Elite, which is a $600 gaming headset and uses graphene drivers. We'll get into some loose comparisons later, but there are other platforms or headset options out there that will work with multiple devices and console versus PC. One of them being the Astro 850 Gen 5, which has the 3 USB inputs to work with PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. However, all of those do not play multiple USB connections at once. You have to choose which one you want active. Whereas on the Nova Elite and the Omni, you get to use 2 at once. Not everyone is going to want this insane amount of features or platform support, so you can still have multi-platform support, maybe not simultaneous, maybe you don't want the base station or active noise cancellation, and thankfully SteelSeries has a massive lineup. They have headsets that start under $100 wireless, and even under $200 you can still get Bluetooth and parametric EQ. So I previewed a lot of them in the past. This particular one is their second most expensive one, and it brings improvements over the Nova Pro wireless that debuted essentially almost 4 years ago, which is insane to think about. The DAC is basically the same as what you've seen on the Nova Pro wireless, the Nova Pro wired, and the Nova Elite. There is a little bit of a texture on this wheel. This is closer to what you got in the Nova Elite, so I like that feature. And then this button pushes in, and you have a back button here, and this is the OLED screen on the front. Looking at the back, again, this is kind of very similar to the Nova Elite. You get the 3 USB inputs. You can see the third one says USB 3/Xbox. Otherwise, you can use the other 2 for anything you want. If you are using Xbox, you have to plug it into that third port. And then you have the 3.5mm inputs and outputs, because you can even use this as a preamp output if you're connecting it to speakers and you want to benefit from all the other stuff the DAC offers. Looking at the side of the DAC, you also have an ejectable battery because this too has the hot swap battery system. The battery life's actually improved. It's 40 hours per battery. You get 2 of them in the box, so effectively you get unlimited gaming. You'll never run out of battery. However, another big benefit to this isn't just the never-ending gaming, because I think you'll sleep at one point. But what I love about batteries like this is if your battery ever wears out, especially with a $400 headset, that's usually the first thing that fails is the battery. You can easily buy replacements online. They're very inexpensive, and that puts new life into your headset, among other things that you might do for maintenance, but this is super convenient. The only thing I'm not a fan of this DAC, and this carries over from all of the other SteelSeries DACs, is this front glossy angled plastic finish. This plastic is a relatively soft plastic. My particular press sample already had a couple little scuffs on the glass that I haven't polished out yet. I didn't know if it would show up on the camera, so I kind of left it. If you get a dusty screen and you wipe it with something that's not perfectly clean or like a microfiber, or you're rubbing all of that dust in, you will eventually create some swirl marks. It's just a soft finish. I frankly, for $400, if I were to be picky, I wish they did a glass front, or at least went with a stronger acrylic or something that would actually hold up to more wear and tear over time. That's really the only gripe I have as far as the build quality of the DAC. As far as what's also included in the box, in addition to the DAC and the headset, you get 2 60-inch or 5-foot long USB A to C cables. No USB C to C in the box, which is odd. I was hoping we'd finally start getting into that as far as included accessories go, but this is a common cable that I've seen in other SteelSeries products. You also get a little travel pouch. Sport fabric material, nothing game-changing. It's really designed to protect your headset from being scratched, but it's not going to provide protection from heavy impacts or things like that. You also get a little foam sock that goes on the microphone. It adds a tiny bit of weight to the mic. It's not bad, but it does make it a little bit easier to kind of sag down once it gets to a certain point. So you might have an issue with that. However, you don't have to use this. The noise rejection is pretty good. Placement's going to be a big thing. And then just like the other higher end SteelSeries products, you get a retractable mic, which is super convenient. Now, this feature is improved. It doesn't look like much, but it's actually easier to get in and out of the headset compared to their older models. It's very, very smooth. So it's nice to see that they're still improving even on the intangibles and things that you don't normally notice. Looking at the headset a little bit more close up and getting into build quality and comfort, this outer headband is metal, just like the Nova Elite. You still get a sport fabric suspension strap. This is awesome. Honestly, I love suspension strap designs, and the SteelSeries products have a low enough profile that when you wear it, it's not like jutting out really far from your head. You also get an adjustable strap here. You can pop these off and change the orientation, which will improve or increase clamp force. So if you feel that you want it to grab your head a little bit stronger, maybe you want more noise isolation and a stronger seal for bass delivery, maybe you wear glasses and that can help there. You can always adjust it, and this of course will still support the aftermarket straps that have been posted online by various brands such as Wicked Cushions. You still get a telescoping yoke, just like the other SteelSeries models. This is all plastic, unlike the Elite, which is obviously a more expensive model, and that one has a really nice glossy finish on the telescoping yoke. Still a single hinge design, just like the older Arctis headsets and Novas. However, I think it's fair to say that SteelSeries improved this a bit, because the older Arctis headsets, like the Arctis 9, not the Nova, used to have an issue where the hinge would kind of break off. It would become brittle. They reinforced the collar inside with a little metal collar. And obviously, being that the Nova has been out for 4 years now, it's been holding up really well. So I think this improvement has been proven to be quite reliable, and this is no longer really an issue. I already mentioned the telescoping yoke. This is the microphone system because there are active noise cancellation, or there is an active noise cancellation. There are 4 microphones, 2 on the outside and 2 on the inside. That way it can accurately gauge what's going on with your sound and give you the best ANC performance possible. These cups are removable, so all I have to do is put my finger in there and kind of pop it off. And it's magnetic, as you can see. There's the USB-C port, which you'll need to access if you're doing any kind of a firmware update. On the other side is the battery system, so I'm going to pop this guy out, and it's as simple as that. You basically just pull down, pop it off, put the new one in, and you're good to go. Kind of like a pit stop if you're in a rush. Right one has the Bluetooth button. As far as the right cup goes, there's no other button on it. And then if we look at the left side, you have your power button, mic mute, which is a physical switch. It feels nice and tactile, and you will get an LED that lights up on the mic when you're muted. You have a volume wheel, and this volume wheel you can press in because just like the older Nova Pro wireless, you have no dedicated game to chat mix. I personally would have always preferred that. There's plenty of room on the right cup. This is a personal preference thing. Some people don't mind, and if it's a force of habit, maybe you want to always have your hand on the controller, or if you're playing on PC and you want to keep your hand on the mouse, I assume that's maybe why they did this. You can press the wheel for game to chat and then press it again for volume. So it works pretty quick, but there's no hardware-based game to chat. It uses SteelSeries Sonar, which is a software-based game to chat that this then tells it to control and adjust. On Xbox, the game to chat mix works natively, obviously no software needed. So PlayStation players, you still don't get game to chat mix control through the headset. That's a Sony thing, nothing to do with SteelSeries. As far as the rest of the comfort goes, nothing really crazy here. Very similar to the Nova lineup in terms of clamp force being around 6 newtons. And honestly, the big improvement here that I notice is the pads are huge. They are so thick, and there's so much more ear clearance. And because they pop off, and they're relatively easy to pop off, that is the active noise cancellation microphone, which you can see is pretty much flat. It's integrated into the baffle quite well. So you're not going to kiss the baffles like the older one. The original Nova Pro wireless had more shallow ear pads, and the mic protruded out. This is a huge improvement in that regard, so I'm not concerned about people having any issues with ear clearance. It could be a little bit taller and wider, I suppose, but that's still big enough to me. And one nice thing about this is you get very consistent frequency response because the placement variance is very small, meaning that if you kick the headset forward and back, it doesn't change the sound quality that much, partly because you have kind of a limited range of how much you can adjust it. So that's going to bode well for the sound quality department and the imaging and FPS side of things, but I think a lot of that is intentional. So, and then the other thing, I guess, to point out, because I might as well wear it if I'm talking about comfort, it does feel absolutely incredible when I wear it. These pads are so comfortable because they're thicker and very soft and compliant. The suspension strap and the lower weight means I can wear this headset for a very long period of time. And if I want to take them off, they swivel and I can put it around my neck. These don't necessarily have like good neck breathing room. If you have a thicker neck, maybe you've been wearing another headphone or headset that's very heavy and your neck got swole, this is going to kind of push into that. So you can wear it around your neck. This is probably better off for stowing than it is for doing this, but I always like to point that out. The other thing I want to point out, this uses the exact same pad mounting mechanism as the Nova Pro Wireless and the Nova Elite, which means you can use a lot of aftermarket pads out there. So there are many other pads. It's not just this. I've worked with Wicked Cushions on developing my own. This is the StealthZ pad, and I'll have links in the description for these. And these are the freeze pads, which gives you a huge variety of customization options because they also make straps to customize it further. It's a good way to kind of make the headset yours. I do want to point out with full transparency, the impact of pads and what it does. So this is a huge improvement. I'm not necessarily suggesting to change pads because these pads are uncomfortable. This is one of the most comfortable headsets SteelSeries has ever made, if not the most comfortable. It's that big of an improvement. The pads are leatherette. Now, this has active noise cancellation, and it works extremely well. If you're worried about how much it pulls things down, it's not going to compete with the Sony XM6 or the new Bose Quiet Comfort Ultras, like the Gen 2s. It's not at that level of ANC performance, but it's clearly in the top 3 ANC performers for the gaming headset side. I think the Alienware Pro Wireless is up there as well. The Nova Elite, I think, and this are in the same category for me in terms of performance. From what I've heard, the new Maxwell has good ANC performance, but I've only heard it at shows and it blocked off the crowd well, but I haven't gotten it back in my house. And just to address the elephant in the room, if you are paying close attention, I have it tucked away somewhere, maybe. Yes, in the top right corner. That is the Turtle Beach Stealth 2, the Stealth Pro 2. And that comes out May 14th. So I can't talk about it yet. It's under embargo, but that too has active noise cancellation. So reason why I made a whole big deal about that, leatherette pads are excellent for noise cancellation. They are not as breathable. So when you switch to a more breathable pad, yes, it's going to be more comfortable in terms of temperature. This is also a very durable pad material. Something like the Wicked Cushion Freeze with sport fabric means the surface material won't break down. In a couple years, approximately, if you're wearing this a lot, it's fair to say that this will start breaking down. Now, this is a higher quality PLU than what some other headsets use. It's more like a protein leather, so it does feel a lot better than what I've gotten from a couple other headset brands that use leatherette. So it could hold up better, but one thing is for sure is it's not as breathable as these. So these have a memory foam with gel, a little bit heavier pad, so it does add some headset weight, but you get a cooling sensation when you first put them on, hence the Freeze name, and it won't create that kind of sweat feel on your skin. Now the Stealth pad, and it does reduce ANC performance when you switch to this, not significantly, but definitely not as good as stock. So again, pros and cons. Then you have the Stealth pad, which completely throws active noise cancellation out the window to an extent. And I designed these more to create an open sounding headset. So if you do switch to this, extremely breathable, extremely lightweight, it opens up the soundstage a bit, in my opinion, partly because it's reducing bass, and it creates a scoop below 2000 hertz. It just kind of shifts everything to sound wider and more spacious, but it does benefit from EQ. And I designed these for active noise cancellation to be on, because if you have ANC off and you switch to these, the bass reduction is immense. Small bass reduction, huge bass reduction, and you can fix a lot of this with EQ, so I will have links in the description added either at the time of release or shortly after to add the bass back in. But if you turn the ANC on, even without EQ, I think the sound profile is still great because these are kind of bass heavy as it is. However, again, almost no ANC performance. If you have a louder PC fan, it helps cut that kind of noise down quite a bit, but I would not travel with these. These are much better for travel. Moving on into the microphone, this is what my voice sounds like on the new Nova Omni headset. It's actually quite a good mic. It has noise rejection built into it, so that's always going to take a little bit of the clarity away from things, but your friends aren't going to notice a big difference on the chat side because when you route your audio through Discord or a game chat, you're losing some of the sound quality anyway. So this is close enough to like the good threshold as far as I'm concerned. It sounds noticeably better than the less expensive and older Nova Pro Wireless and some of the other headsets that came out before. So I like what they're doing here. And just in case you want to hear if there's a difference, I just put the foam sock on, which can help with plosives. I think it looks pretty nice like this. The only downside is you can't retract the mic unless you take the foam sock off. Side tone is fantastic on this headset, so if you are concerned with hearing yourself, I'm keeping mine at a 7, which is pretty much the right threshold for me to actually still hear myself well, but not overpowering the game where it becomes distracting. This headset also has something called noise control built into it, which means you don't have to have software running for noise rejection functions to work. SteelSeries Sonar using the Clearcast AI is an amazing software solution. However, not everyone is going to be running Sonar, because if you connect this to a PlayStation or an Xbox, or you're on the go, you want to benefit from some noise rejection. So even when it's set to off, it's actually still quite aggressive. So again, this talks about the whole, good sound quality while still having good noise rejection. This is a little cordless blower that I got from Costco. So I'm going to turn this on. You're going to hear it on that mic. And even with noise control set to off, I'm going to talk or switch over to this, and you'll hear the big difference. And now I'm talking to you while this is on. I didn't turn it off. So I'm going to leave that on for a second. I'm going to click on noise control. We're going to go to low. Now, and I'm going to hit save. Now I'm talking to you with noise control set to low. Now I am talking to you with noise control set to medium. And now I am talking to you at noise control set to high. And again, I'm not having to run the software to benefit from this. As far as the rest of the software goes, you have EQ that's built into the headset for the mic, and then you have audio EQ functions that you can do, and it's parametric EQ built into the headset. This is a huge feature. You can customize the daylights out of it. If you are running SteelSeries Sonar on your PC, it will disable the built-in EQ because you're double EQing at that point, and that can really mess things up. So we're not going to deal with that. However, you can adjust on a separate profile a 10-band EQ for the Bluetooth audio. That way, if you want it to sound a little bit different for your phone, you can make some changes there. Now, when I go back to the microphone setting, it's set to flat right now. I'm not going to go through all of these because honestly, it takes quite a bit. But this is what my voice sounds like if I set it to balanced. This is what I hit save again. This is what my voice sounds like on broadcast high pitch. And this is what my voice sounds like on broadcast low pitch. So there's clarity, there's deep voice. If I go clarity low pitch, this is what my voice sounds like on clarity low pitch. So you can customize this. Ideally, you want to just find what sounds best for your particular voice. There's really not one perfect answer, or you can just click flat and either leave it alone or customize it yourself. If I scroll down on this software, you actually see the rest of the features. Now, you can set a lot of this on the DAC itself. It's actually quite robust from a feature set standpoint for customizing it, and this can come in handy if you're kind of old school and you like to use the knob. There is a mobile companion app. The SteelSeries Arctis companion app gives you a huge majority, if not almost all of these features on the mobile device. So even if you don't have a PC and you buy this just for your PlayStation and or Xbox or something else, you can connect your phone with this and make changes on the fly while you're still connected and playing on your console. So that's pretty handy. The rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. You can see where my microphone settings are right now, and the mic muted brightness LED. If you have the foam sock, you can just leave it maxed out. If it becomes too distracting, especially if you have no foam sock on it, you can just turn that off. Now, if I go to audio and scroll down, let's go back to 2.4. Normally, you would think everything's disabled, but if you scroll down here, you can see the other features. Noise control, active noise cancellation is currently turned on this headset. You can put it in transparency mode. Now I have a voice prompt, and it kind of works in tandem with your microphone side tone. Transparency mode is pretty bassy, and while I'm talking to you, it's really amplifying the bass of my voice. So I don't think it's quite as neutral sounding as what I got on the Sony InZone H9 II. But it does work quite well. You can just either, if you're muted, I guess it comes in handy, but I would bounce between active noise cancellation on or off for a personal preference. Output, if you have the analog output on the DAC connected to something, you can then tell it what the purpose of that connection is. So if it's speakers, then it'll send whatever you want to it at different volumes. You can see the mixer here. And if it's streaming, again, it's going to give you different behavior, allowing you to customize it. So it's either all for speakers or customized for stream. Volume limiter gain is going to ask when you first unbox this and set it up if you're in Europe or not. If you say no or you are not in Europe, you can click no. And then if it's set to off or high, this headset gets noticeably louder. It does seem a little bit louder than the Nova Pro wireless as well. So last thing I want to do is go to your settings up here. OLED screen brightness. If you're concerned with the image burn that the older units had, my Nova Pro wireless one never had screen burn in, but if you're concerned with that, you can obviously set this dimmer, and then you can even set a screensaver option. So if you're not interacting with the deck, it'll dim the screen automatically, and it can go from off as much as 60 minutes at a time. Home display mode is showing you basically it's the default when you're not running things through it. So if it's just showing the standard screen, you can have the left and right channel represented as a bar for amplitude. So if noise is playing, you'll see the bars bouncing. You can have it show the preset. You can have it show the meters. The meter system is basically like all of your feeds combined, showing you the volume of each one. So you'll get USB 1, USB 2, for example, your chat and your microphone. You can see the bars kind of bouncing up and down with each of them. So it's really just a preference of what you like. And then simple is it's just not going to show as much, frankly. It just has a single volume display on the front. And kind of basic, I like details, so I don't leave that turned on simple. Bluetooth call, this is, again, just a customized behavior. Do nothing during calls, lower game volume, or mute game volume. So if you get a Bluetooth call, you can tell the headset what to do for the background game stuff so you're not distracted. And then Bluetooth default, from the factory, it's set to not enable Bluetooth when you first turn the headset on. Otherwise, if you pretty much always use Bluetooth with your phone and you want it to hook into that, then you can toggle this. And from now on, every time you turn your headset on, Bluetooth also enables. They leave it off by default, so you're not always taking over your phone in case you didn't want it. And it also helps save battery life a little bit by not having both simultaneously. I did mention that it's a software-based game-to-chat mix as well. So again, if I just push in the volume, I just wanted to show you what it looked like on Sonar. I tapped it, I have a little tone, and I can fade towards chat by scrolling the wheel up. If I pull the wheel down, it's going to fade my mix towards game. And each of these has their own sound profile as well. So if I go to game here, you can see that I have a full parametric EQ and spatial audio, volume boost, smart volume, all of that. I don't typically use the spatial audio. That's a personal preference thing. I do think it actually makes certain things harder to pick up the spatial cues, but it can make things sound more immersive and wide. So depending on what game you play, maybe try it and leave it at the default setting. Maybe put it in the middle instead of maxing something out. The equalizer stuff I'm not showing yet just because I want to spend more time fine-tuning this. I'll probably have my own EQ guide as a follow-up video like what I did with the Nova Pro wireless. I can tell you that we're about to get into sound quality. The biggest thing is just taming one particular treble peak. Aside from that, it's going to be seasoning to taste, if you will, or reducing the bass if you don't like having too much. Moving into sound quality, I want to start with the objective side first. It's the measurement side. It takes my opinion out of it, and it shows you how a particular measuring rig hears this headset. Now, this is the beginning of something huge that I've been working on for a long time because this is the Brulin KR5128. It's the most expensive, I believe, and one of the most consistently accurate measurement rigs out there, which means I have to remeasure everything. So I also have a new website that I've launched as of about a week or two ago called headphonedatabase.com. So if you want to start browsing all the measurements, that has all of my old stuff using a Gross KB006X Pinaclone and this guy, you can see how they compare on the same model, which is really cool. Now, here's the thing. That might all sound like a whole different language to you, and that's fine. What this means is these measurements represent how this rig hears it. Your hearing can vary, and your preferences will vary. So this is just one picture, and then you can help kind of, if you know you've heard another product and you prefer something to be different, this at least helps give you something to compare to. But don't think that this is the only way it sounds. You might hear it a little bit differently, and that's okay. So it's a whole other topic. I'm actually going to do a separate video on this soon to better explain why I'm doing this, because I want to help people. Anyway, so all of the measurements are currently hidden because this headset is under embargo. Once the embargo goes live, which is the time that you're watching this, if you click the link in the description, you're going to see all the other measurements I did. This is the measurement of the Arctis Nova Omni on the 5128, and it is a very similar sound signature to all of the existing Nova headsets. The Nova Elite is a little bit different, having more mid-bass and less treble, so it sounds a little bit thicker and darker by comparison. However, this particular one, the Omni, is extremely similar to the Nova Pro wireless. In terms of overall sound signature, they're nearly identical to each other, but you can see a big bass lift here. Enabling active noise cancellation kind of fills in this void just a little bit, and it changes this recess here. So this site does allow you to show different variants, which in this case will be ANC on or off. Now, one thing that is very consistent, and it measured on both rigs and on my own hearing, is this nice treble peak right around 8200 hertz. It's quite strong, and if you like treble, you might like this. It will present itself. It might come across more detailed to an extent, but at the same time, it can be fatiguing if you're sensitive to this area. This is a hot spot for me. I'm actually normally sensitive to 8K, so anytime there's a headset with a lot of emphasis here, it really stands out to me. The InZone H9 had the same issue. I've had a lot of other headsets have this problem. Turtle Beach has done it, and even I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but the Asus one had this peak, and so did the Alienware actually. So it's not uncommon. It's not like it's a bad thing, but if you are doing any EQ and it's because the headset sounds really sharp to you, I would guess that it's about 8000 hertz, 8200 hertz that you're having a similar peak. Overall, the voicing over here is excellent. Anywhere from like 1000 hertz to 2500 hertz. It's awesome. It sounds quite natural. There's no shout to this headset. There's a nice recess here from 4 to 5K, which can help with listening fatigue. I tend to boost this a little bit more from what this baseline is because I think it helps present a little bit more detail without having the same peakiness that this one has. So my EQ is going to adjust for this, but I at least kind of wanted to explain how it's tuned out of the box. The big takeaway though is it's almost identical to the Nova Pro Wireless in terms of frequency response and a lot of the other SteelSeries products. I think the reason why they do that is because the SteelSeries Sonar app and the mobile companion app has over 200 game profiles for custom EQ. So if you play Arc Raiders, if you play Tarkov, you can click the game and it's going to auto EQ for the game. I assume that they factor in the sound signature of the default profile of this headset. I keep pointing to the head for some reason, of this headset to do the EQ. So if they made 5 different Novas that sound completely different from each other, then you use those game profiles to EQ it the same way, they make them all sound completely different. So there's no consistency. So I'm pretty sure it's because, you know, they wanted the EQ profiles to work across their entire product lineup. Thankfully, you can make your own if you don't like what the profiles do or how this sounds, but at least this helps paint the picture. And the very last thing I want to point out on the measure side is channel matching is incredible on this headset. I mentioned the whole placement variance before. It's super consistent. I measure it 10 times with every setting and see if there's any difference as I take the headset on and back off and back on. And it's almost the exact same sound signature, which is great. So you're not going to have wildly different results. The Wicked Cushion Freeze Pad was the only one that had more placement variance, partly because it's a larger pad and you have more wiggle room for placement. Great for larger ears, but keep in mind if you have it shifted like this, you might get a weird inconsistent channel balance. That's only because of your positioning. It's not because the drivers aren't matched. So that's a lot of science nerdy stuff, but I hope that helps you understand where this is coming from a sound profile. So here's where things start to differ a little bit from the Nova Pro Wireless. One, I already mentioned it has a better microphone. It has parametric EQ now, and of course it has the multi-simultaneous platform support. The sound signature, even though it's similar, this sounds more clear, and it's partly because it has a high-res certified wireless DAC. It's running 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. Ultimately, the simplest way I can describe this is the wireless pipe, the stream of the DAC, sending audio to the headset is better than the old one. And what happens is you get more subtle detail, there's less audio compression, and that gets you closer to what a sound would have been like had you had a wire plugged in and weren't dealing with wireless codecs and compression. Wireless range is still excellent, still over 50 feet, no problem whatsoever. So as far as my toilet test goes, you can easily walk quite a bit away from this base and get pretty consistent wireless performance. In game, the big difference is that it just sounds a little bit more clear, even with the same general sound signature. You do hear the nuances a little bit better, and thanks to the channel matching, positional accuracy is excellent as well. Some of the games I've been playing lately have been basically Arc Raiders and racing sim stuff. I haven't done Call of Duty as much unless I want to have a bad or frustrating night. And Battlefield I still pick up from time to time because I do enjoy it despite some of its flaws that can get frustrating. It's a variety of games, and as a result, your experiences will vary from genre or game to game. And I'm not a super fan of this sound profile purely for music because it's too bass boosted and that 8 kilohertz peak is quite strong. for $400, it's not going to compete with an audiophile first headphone or IEM that's typically tuned better. But what you're paying for is the insane amount of features. So just getting back into games, when I get into Arc Raiders, this kind of bass elevation can help. Arc Raiders has a pretty incredible sound engine. It's only getting better, but if there's explosions in the distance, having a headset that's boosted in this way just sounds absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of good impact and slam to it. It's not as good as the Nova Elite with the graphene drivers, because those drivers have like zero distortion. They pound. But I do turn the bass down a little bit because it comes across a little bit too thick and dark sounding without doing some EQ to kind of wake it back up. Thankfully, these don't quite need that same level of adjustment, but it's partly because it's a different driver. So you can tune the bass down if you find it too strong. The 8 kilohertz peak, it might help with certain effects like rain or wind. It'll sound more crispy and airy. So if you turn down that treble, yeah, it'll help with music, but it might make your games sound a little bit dull or muted. And that's why these different audio profiles or sound tunings can have pros and cons depending on what you're playing or listening to. For the racing sim side, it's not like you have to have an incredible headset, right? You're listening to the engine and gear shifts, and maybe you want to make sure someone's not dive bombing you. But this particular sound signature is really fun because when you have a lot of mid bass and you're driving a car with a larger engine, that vibration kind of hits a little bit more. It doesn't sound as anemic, so that can be really fun. And again, the high treble is going to help more for road noise, wind, if rain's cracking on the windshield, that type of thing. So I do want to point out, I mentioned the Arc Raider stuff. It's wonderfully immersive, but this particular headset, my unit at least, with the driver matching that it has, I can still easily pinpoint these subtle things like footsteps. So if you're thinking a raider's going to sneak up on you, I can still easily pick that up because the positional accuracy is just incredible. The Nova Pro Wireless is 4 years old now, and it's still, to me, in easily the top 5, probably the top 3 for wireless headsets for FPS. That's how good that was 4 years ago, and they made it better with this because it has better channel matching and more clarity. So as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the best wireless headsets you can get, purely with the focus of positional accuracy. Again, it comes down to clarity and driver matching. So I haven't tried the new Rig R8. I'm really optimistic about that one. And obviously the Stealth Pro 2 is coming too, so I'll be talking about that. But it's excellent in terms of being competitive while also still be very immersive if you're not playing those types of games and you just want to enjoy what you're listening to. Okay, and that takes me to the end of this video. So this is kind of, we'll just say part 1 of 2 or 3 series of videos for this model, because I want to do more on the sound tuning side, I think, to kind of extract a little bit more out of it. And obviously with the Stealth Pro 2 coming out from Turtle Beach, and I want to get my hands on the Maxwell with active noise cancellation, as well as finish my review on the Rig R8. We're being blessed with some insanely awesome headsets lately, and this is easily up there as one of the best you can use. I will still be comparing it to the Astro A50 and a couple other models, obviously like the Elite. So expect a really good high-end like roundup video to come, but I don't want to start that ahead of time until I get my hands on and can talk about all the others. So the big takeaway with this guy is, one, if you want to spend $400 on a headset, but if you do, this is one of those headsets that just checks so many boxes. The multi-simultaneous platform support, simultaneous Bluetooth, swappable batteries, really good active noise cancellation. It's comfortable, it's built well, they improved the mic, parametric EQ, built-in noise cancellation on the mic for chat that works on consoles as well. I mean, it does almost everything you could possibly ask for. It's just a matter of if you like the design language, you like the price, whatever your reasons may be. I'm not telling you have to buy this one and it's the best one out there, but to put it in perspective, the Nova Pro Wireless that came out almost 4 years ago is still in the top 5 for the best wireless headsets you can get typically. And it was one of the best for FPS play on wireless. I'm just super competitive with that headset for my own personal use. I love gaming on that. And this just like dials it up a notch. So if that tells you where we're at, that was always one of the best. And now this one has some noticeable improvements. And it fixed some of the drawbacks like lack of parametric EQ. And the microphone is noticeably better. So this is a pretty badass headset. I think they have a home run here. It's just a matter of if you want to spend $400 on it or not, or if you want to wait to see how the others stack up. But I can safely say that if you get this, I think you'll be pretty happy with it, factoring everything I've covered in this review. So With that being said, thank you so much for watching this and making it to the end. I really appreciate the support, and I can't wait to see you at the next video. So don't forget to like and subscribe, click that bell icon, and I'll catch you at the next one. Later.